there is a right way to play the game, there's a right way to conduct oneself in sports, that at the end of the day, sports is important in American life because it's drama, but that drama should take place within a moral context, so that I salute the Institute and its leadership over the course of years.
And welcome back. Happy to be joined now by a couple of special guests. First, Peter Roby, the former director of Sport and Society here at Northeastern University, current director of athletics here at Northeastern, and Geer from USA Track and Field, who knows a little bit about the history of track and field as well. And this is a great moment in history when you look back at what happened in 1968. And Peter, let me start with you and the impact of that moment. You know full well what they did and what it meant and where we are today, in some ways because of what they did in '68.
Yeah, those of us that are baby boomer generation kids, I was 11, and the Olympic Games at that time were one of those major sporting events that you could get on television on the major networks that captivated your attention and your imagination. So for me, growing up in New Britain, Connecticut, an African-American kid who cared about sports, Olympic Games were important, and having the chance to, 41 years later, acknowledge the courage that John Carlos and Tommie Smith displayed on the medal stand was really a thrill for me.
Seeing only the image and knowing what they suffered after they took that stand, you would expect them to be kind of hard, maybe a little bit angry. The thing that strikes me about both these men is how kind and gentle they are. I had met John Carlos in 2003 when he was inducted into our Hall of Fame. And I met him again just a few years later, and he remembered me and greeted me with a hug. And when you're in white America in the Midwest and you see two black men with a raised fist, you think black power. You think angry men. You don't think men who are trying to help humanity. And that's really what they are. In terms of what they are for track and field, both guys will tell you they weren't running as fast as they could have. They could have gone faster. But people forget, Tommie Smith was an 11-time world record holder. This guy could probably still compete with Usain Bolt today if they were the same age. But they are important for our sport in terms of their records, but also in terms of what they did for the sport. Track and field has always been on the forefront of both race and gender equality. It was one of the first sports where women competed, one of the first sports where black and white people could compete on the same level. And so our sport has really embraced them early on. I mean, not the rest of the country certainly didn't do it, but track and field, they are very, very important.
How about the elite athlete today and what they care about? Because it is not 1968 in their defense. I mean, but Absolutely. There are still plenty of social issues out there to be concerned about.
Yeah, and we have some really terrific athletes who are great human beings. For most of our athletes, it comes down to money, just like it does for athletes in every other sport. People don't realize that track and field is a professional sport now. But I think what does happen with track athletes is once they become professional, they do educate themselves about the history of the sport, and they appreciate what people like Tommie and John did. They, in their lives, don't have that seminal moment, that life or death issue that could make or break them. So they understand that these men seized a moment. And I think in some ways, some of them might wish they had that own issue for themselves, but it just doesn't exist for them right now.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's most important now that we want to educate young athletes about is that just because you may not feel the pangs of discrimination doesn't mean that you still don't want to do things for those that are underrepresented, or make sure that you don't waste the opportunity that you have as an athlete with celebrity and in some cases with financial wherewithal to make a difference in the world. And that's what we want our young athletes to appreciate now, that there's an opportunity for you to make a difference in our society. And you can be a role model without having to stand on the victory stand with black gloves on, but it's all about what you do on a daily basis and your interactions with people one-on-one.
Peter Roby, thank you very much. Geer, thank you for your time as well.
Next on Sport and Society, thoughts from the other honorees and from Sport and Society Director Dan Lebowitz.
For us, we are a social justice entity that uses the power of sport to move social justice issues, racial justice issues, gender equity issues, human rights issues, and civil rights issues forward.